up with bad news, but I do have to tell you something about Doug Pederson. Listen up here on Locked On Jaguars.
You are Locked On Jags, your daily Jacksonville Jaguars podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Thank you for joining me on Locked On Jaguars. I am Tony Wiggins, the host of Locked On Jaguars, where it's your team every day. And we thank you for making us your first listen. Look, I'm not the guy that's sitting here trying to come up with bad news or trying to come up with something negative to say, okay? I don't want anybody to get upset with me. I don't want y'all to think it's clickbait. I don't want y'all to think it's anything, but I got something I need to tell you. The Jaguars are going to have to make history in order to win a Super Bowl. And I want to be wrong about this. I did my research. I looked it up. I got on the computer. I did what we do. I went online. I made sure the date was correct. So if I'm wrong, good. Correct me. If I'm wrong, good. Correct me. I'll stand corrected, and then I'll just take it out on the site that I went to on my computer. But I was sitting there thinking, and I went through it myself. In order for the Jaguars to win a Super Bowl with Doug Pederson as the head coach, Doug Pederson would have to do what no other coach in the history of the league has ever been able to do. So if you're a betting person, shout out to BetOnline. I'll tell you more about them in a little bit. But if you're a betting person, the odds of it happening are extremely low. And that doesn't mean I'm trying to rain on your parade, or that doesn't mean that what I'm sitting here doing is trying to make you not be enthusiastic about the season, but it was just something that I thought about. So in the first segment, I'm going to tell you what it is in just a second. In the second segment, I'm going to tell you why it doesn't matter. After sitting here bringing it up, I'm going to tell you why it doesn't matter. The third segment, I'm going to tell you why it shouldn't matter. I'm going to tell you what it is, then I'm going to tell you why it doesn't matter. Then I'm going to tell you why it shouldn't matter. Because even after I tell you why it doesn't matter, you'll probably still sit there and think about it, because I did. And I feel bad because I just did a podcast about why I believe in Doug. And I still do. But if he's able to do what I just mentioned, it's going to make it even that much more sweet for the Jaguar fans and for him professionally. No coach in NFL history that has won a Super Bowl has gone on to win another Super Bowl with a different team as a head coach. Hasn't been done. And if it has, I'll stand corrected. But I'm going to still leave this podcast on all of our platforms because that's just what I do. But it hit me today because I was actually sitting here trying to think of someone that I could point to and say, this is what he does, or he can be like that guy, or this is how he did it. And then as I kept going through the list of names and looking, nobody did it. Nobody. Not John Gruden, not Jimmy Johnson, not Mike Holmgren, not Bill Parcells, not Bill Belichick. There's a little bit of a caveat here now, because normally when a coach wins a Super Bowl somewhere, he's also not fired within 3 years. Usually he stays there until he gets sick of coaching and he goes and he does some TV or whatever. And then maybe he'll want to dab back into it later on. Like we've seen guys leave that never came back. Bill Cowher said, I'm out of here. He never came back. And it's probably too late for him to come back. I don't even know if anybody will hire him these days. Not because he's too old, but he's just been so separated from it for so long. Joe Gibbs left and came back to the same team in Washington and took him to the playoffs 2 times in 4 years, but he couldn't renew that magic. Andy Reid has won a Super Bowl, but he never won one before he got to Kansas City. He was always in the playoffs in Philly. I just sat here and it just hit me. Tony Dungy had a great run in Tampa, but they didn't win. He didn't win till he went to the Colts. It is absolutely amazing to think that no coach has ever been able to do this. That's how hard it is, man. It is hard to win a Super Bowl. Andy Reid was widely considered one of the better coaches in the league, and he had never won it. As much as we talk about Sean Payton, he's won one title. One. We don't know if Bill Belichick will win one without Tom Brady. We just don't know. The caveat that I was talking about, that most coaches who win a Super Bowl, they aren't jettisoned. They usually hang around and they coach for that team. And then when they move on, they move on to a little bit of a desperate situation where somebody's trying to get over the hump. Jimmy did it when he went to Miami. He tried to do some things and he couldn't affect the culture in Miami the way he could the culture in Dallas. So he didn't do it. Tom Coughlin won a lot of games in Jacksonville, went to the AFC Championship game twice in 4 years, didn't win a Super Bowl here, went and won 2 with the New York Giants. It is difficult. It is supremely difficult, extremely difficult. It's a hard thing to do. You just think about the great coaches that coached for a long time and they got one title. John Madden. If there's one coach that doesn't get credit at all for winning multiple Super Bowls in the same place, it's Tom Flores. Nobody ever talks about Tom Flores like you think they ought to. Guy won 2 Super Bowls. They act like he's Gary Kubiak or something. And shout out to Gary Kubiak for winning one title. But that's kind of how they treat him a little. They treat George Seifert the same way. Speaking of Seifert, he took a team to the Super Bowl, but they couldn't win it. After he left San Francisco. So it just dawned on me today as I'm sitting here thinking, like, trying to find a comp for Doug Pederson, trying to find someone who did something similar to what we hope he does here in Jacksonville. And I had no luck because it's never happened before. And I know you guys probably want me to say when, so for the sake of this podcast, because the people that listen to this podcast are Jaguar fans, when Doug Pederson wins a Super Bowl, it'll be even that much sweeter because he'll become the first. Not only will it be the first championship for Jacksonville, he'll become the first coach to ever win a Super Bowl as a head coach with different teams. I'm going to tell you why it don't matter in the second segment. And then if you don't believe me after that, I'll tell you why it should matter to you. And it shouldn't matter with what you are looking forward to this year from this team. I'll tell you all that in just a few seconds after I tell you about Dave. Now, I want you guys to level with me. We've all been in situations at some point in our lives when we were a little tight on cash and maybe you could only afford to put a few gallons of gas in your tank, or you got you got to save the date and wondering how you're going to afford a gift. That's where Dave can come in and help. If you're living paycheck to paycheck, struggling to make ends meet, it can be stressful and unexpected expenses come up. Now, Dave can help you out in a pinch when you really, really need it. Now, it's been a little bit since I've been like that, but I've just been fortunate. But when I was younger and I had kids and all of them were in daycare, or 5 of them, I knew what it felt like to be like this. It's nothing to be ashamed of, man. Dave is the banking app that can help you get up to $500 instantly with extra cash. It's more money to fill your tank, buy that special wedding gift, or catch up on bills. You can finally tackle those expenses that have been stressing you out, keeping you from going to sleep without any hangups. There's no interest and no credit check needed. Millions of people have already downloaded the Dave app to get the financial relief they need with extra cash. So if you're in a pinch and need some extra help, download the Dave app and think of it as a helping hand from future you. Download the app from the App Store right now. That's DAVE. Sign up for an extra cash account and get up to $500 instantly. For terms and conditions, go to dave.com/legal. Instant transfer fees apply. Banking provided by Evolve, member FDIC. the future you will thank you. All right, and we thank you for making us your first listen here on Locked On Jaguars every single day. We'll be going back to that Monday through Friday schedule here in about a week and a few days. Look out for it because it's your team every day. That's our motto. And training camp will be coming around, and you guys will want to know all the news you need to know about the Jaguars, and I'll be glad to give it to you. Right now, I'm giving you a dose of reality, man. I'm not slapping you across the face with bad news or being the bearer of bad news or being Debbie Downer. But it hit me a little bit this morning that in order for the Jaguars to do what we want to do with the coach that they've selected, they're going to actually be the first to ever win a Super Bowl with a coach who won a Super Bowl at a previous stop as their head coach. It is absolutely frightening to think that they have to do something like that in order for us to achieve the success that we want to achieve. Why doesn't it matter? Because there's something that I said that the Jaguars need to do. They need to forget about all of their dreadful past. They need to forget about all of that stuff that got them into this situation, because all of that stuff is like baggage. Doing all, thinking about all of those bad things and thinking about stuff that happened in yesteryear was baggage. Well, guess what? Ain't one Nick Foles pass or an Alshon Jeffrey jump ball going to help Doug Pederson here in Jacksonville anyway. So what happened somewhere else, he probably needs to forget about it and don't worry about it. He was the best coach on the market. He was the best coach for this organization. He is a taskmaster. He is really, really good with quarterbacks. He's really, really good with RPO and game planning. He seems to be really, really good with player development. He seems to be very forthright and open with the media and with the fans. He seems to be a really, really good communicator, according to Trevor Lawrence, since Doug doesn't yell at him. I think he has his finger on the pulse of the team the way it should be. And he knows what they've been through, and he knows how he has to handle them. I do think one of the things he's going to do is get real tough on them in camp, because he hasn't been tough on them to this point, because they had enough of that fake toughness last year from who. He's the best man for the job. Whether he's won before and whether a guy who won before has never won somewhere else, it won't be worth the hill of beans. It's not even worth you worrying about it. So you say, why are you telling me? Go back to what I said in the first segment. I said the reason why I'm telling you is because it, in my opinion, is going to make this journey that much more special. So that's why I'm giving it to you and telling you that's something that you can stick in your pocket and hold it, whether you use it for motivation or whether you just use it to say somebody is going to come here and they're going to make history and they're going to do something special. And that's the thing that I want you to grab a hold to. And this is why I'm going to tell you why it shouldn't matter in a little bit. But the things I want you to grab a hold to and hold on to is, don't think that just because it hasn't happened that necessarily means that it won't, or that means it's just more difficult. It's hard to win Super Bowls anyway. Not that many people have done it. Not many people have done it. It's hard. It's extremely hard, which makes the Pittsburgh Steelers situation even that much more amazing. I'm 53 years old. I always say this, but every time I say it, I go up another number because I have a new birthday. But I'm 53 years old, and they've had three coaches my whole life, and all three of them won Super Bowl. One guy won 4. Chuck Noll. I still can't believe they've only had 3 coaches in 53 years. It seems like the Jaguars have had 3 coaches in 5 months, but that's neither here nor there. I'm serious. The Jaguars literally in the last 17, 18 months have had 3 coaches. Steelers did that in 53 years. So, yeah, while it's going to be a tough task, it doesn't get any harder because he won it before. Nah. It doesn't make it less likely since it's never been done. No, you got to go out. If you're Doug Peterson in the Jaguars, you got to go out and win every single day. You win every rep, every session, every film session. Every time you have a chance to get better, you do it. You show up early, you stay late. That's what it's going to take. That's what is going to be required in order for them to step by step. It's not as if, I'll say that for segment 3, they have to just go about it as if he's never won a Super Bowl before. Just like you can't have baggage, that's bad baggage. There's some good stuff too. He has to take his experience and all of that he learned from that situation. But outside of that, it ain't going to help one bit. Nothing that happened with Zach Ertz and that crew in Philadelphia is going to help him do anything here in Jacksonville. So there's no need for him to worry about that. I'll tell you a little bit further why you shouldn't worry about it. It's just a point that I brought up because it's the truth. And because it's the truth, it just made me think a little bit. I want to tell you guys about BetOnline because it's your number one source for all your betting needs and sports information. You can find all the latest sports developments, league reviews, and news, including this year's Major League Baseball season where the Yankees are on absolute fire and they beat the Red Sox last night. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sporting wagering information, including live betting, esports, and scores. And BetOnline.net remains the best spot for all your sports scores, podcasts, and news this season. BetOnline.net is the fastest and easiest way to check in on all your favorite sports and events, including MMA, boxing, and golf. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action because BetOnline is where the game starts. You start here with me on the Locked On Jaguars podcast, and we are eternally grateful that you make us your first listen. You can make Locked On NFL your next listen. That's right, Locked On NFL. It's an entirely different podcast with different guys on it every single day, Monday through Friday. It's on YouTube. It's free on all platforms and wherever you get your podcast. Make sure you check it out, like and subscribe, man. Yours truly is there on Wednesdays with my running partner, James Rapine. We have a lot of fun, man. We talk about all the things around the NFL. After you hear about the Jaguars, then you can go over there and hear about the rest of the National Football League. Talking about Doug Pederson, talking about the likelihood of him making history, becoming the first head coach to win Super Bowls with multiple teams. Daunting task, but here's why it shouldn't matter to you. It shouldn't matter because there's nothing about winning a Lombardi Trophy in a Super Bowl that says you could not win a Super Bowl somewhere else. It just hasn't been done. And it hasn't been done because most of the time the guys that win Super Bowls, they usually spend most of their time in one place. And guys like that don't usually find themselves out looking for jobs. Mike Holmgren did pretty good in Seattle. He was just never able to get over the hump after he won one in Green Bay. And no, Doug Pederson is not Mike McCarthy or McCartney. Whatever, however you say his name, I think it's McCarthy. He's not. He's not the guy in Dallas that everybody thinks is going to get fired. That everybody believes doesn't manage the game clock very well and kind of does poor interviews and all of that stuff. He's not him. He's not a guy who lucked into a championship. What makes Doug Pederson so special, it almost has a Joe Gibbs feeling to it. Shout out to Joe Theismann. Joe Theismann is not a terrible quarterback. But Joe Gibbs won 3 Super Bowls. Well, he won 3 Super Bowls with 3 different quarterbacks. And while Theismann was good and Mark Rippon had a few good years and Doug Williams was fantastic, none of them are considered, they're not Hall of Famers, they're not all-time greats. See, the Holmgrens and those guys, they've had like Aaron Rodgers, they had Brett Favre, McCarthy had Rodgers, Favre, he had Favre. They have always had one of those guys that when you look up there on somebody's top 10 list as a great quarterback. Dungy, he had Peyton Manning. Kubiak had Peyton Manning, even though he was a shell of himself at the time. But you look up, and most of the coaches are also attached to great quarterbacks, and we know that to be true with Bill Belichick. This is a little bit different. Him winning with a quarterback that's really a journeyman against Belichick and Brady, it really gives me the feeling that It's more like if he could win with that, boy, you give him Trevor Lawrence, who's a generational talent, and you also give him more say in personnel, so he's not going back and forth with Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie up there. You put him in a situation where they totally trust him with a franchise quarterback with major talent and tools. That's what gives me optimism about. I think he's going to break the record. I think he's going to do it. I think Doug Pederson is going to be the first coach to win Super Bowls as a head coach with two organizations. And I feel that way because I don't think he was actually supposed to win the first one. So it's almost like it didn't happen for the same reasons that everyone else. They were hot. They got hot. They got lightning hot. You can't, and the fans in Philly might get mad at me for saying this, but nobody thought they were going to beat the Patriots with Nick Foles as their quarterback. It's almost like he was playing with house money. So you won that Super Bowl, and we give you credit for it, but it's almost as if it's like the fans, it's like the Philly fanatics, and it's like that whole city just popped Belichick and Brady right upside their head, and it was like this what was I'm looking for? Immovable object. Like it had to happen. It was destiny. You got Meek Mill and dreams and nightmares. You got all this stuff going on. And they won a game. They upset New England. I think when he wins it here, I think people are going to expect it. So it's not quite the same thing. I told you I wasn't going to be the bearer of bad news. It's kind of a little bit of a, damn, ain't nobody ever won it. So if he does win it, the likelihood that he does win it will go down because nobody's ever done it. Don't look at it that way. It shouldn't matter to you because you're going to make this, you're going to turn this into a positive. The positive is there's no better place for a dude to do what has not been done than Jacksonville, Florida, because that's all we do. Florida, man, we do everything that nobody's ever done. We had a dude carry a crocodile or alligator into a grocery store to get a 12-pack of beer. People don't do that everywhere. Some dude on my birthday put a microwave inside of a microwave and blew his kitchen up. That we always do stuff that other people don't do. So you know what? We're gonna do something good that people don't do, and y'all want something to talk about? Here's what's gonna happen. At some point, Doug Pederson's gonna hold up the Lombardi Trophy, and he's gonna be the first coach to ever win a Super Bowl in two different places. I'm like Bobby Womack. I can't be two places at the same time, but I am on YouTube and on other platforms with this podcast. I appreciate y'all, man. I told you it wasn't going to be bad news. I was going to turn it into something good. Thank you guys for joining us. Training camp is getting close, man. We'll start having some divisional breakdowns. We'll do some crossovers, start looking behind enemy lines a little bit in the coming weeks. We'll do all that for you here on Locked On Jaguars because it's your team every day, and we appreciate you making us your first listen. Y'all take care of each other. Be safe on the road. I got to say that. Please be safe because it started raining yesterday in Jacksonville, and folks' driving etiquette, which was already questionable, it went out of the window. Y'all stop driving so damn crazy, especially when the weather gets bad. Y'all be careful. Take care of each other. Take care of each other, man. We'll see you the next time here on Locked On Jaguars.